Officer Daniel Hayes had spent 14 years on the force, but nothing had ever broken him the way this day did. His 10-year-old son, Ethan, had vanished without a trace during a routine community event. Search teams failed. K-9 units searched for hours. Not a single clue? Daniel's hands shook as he stood outside the diner, fighting back the terror gripping his chest. That's when a little girl, no older than 8, walked toward him with a German shepherd nearly twice her size. She looked straight into his hopeless eyes and said 7 words that made the entire room fall silent. "My police dog can find your son. What happened next?" Shocked everyone. Before we start, make sure to hit like, share, and subscribe. And really, I'm curious, where are you watching from? Drop your country name in the comments. I love seeing how far our stories travel. Officer Daniel Hayes had faced criminals, disasters, and situations that would break most people, but nothing compared to the terror gripping him now. His 10-year-old son, Ethan, had been missing for 7 hours that felt like a lifetime, pulling him apart from the inside. Police cars, helicopters, and K-9 units had swept through every nearby street and park, yet not a single clue had surfaced. Daniel stood beside his patrol SUV, his uniform soaked with sweat, his hands trembling despite his years of calm under pressure. He replayed Ethan's last moments again and again, each second cutting deeper. Every parent's worst nightmare had become his reality, and time was running out. Daniel finally stepped into the small roadside diner, needing a moment to breathe, though breathing itself felt impossible. The soft hum of conversations faded the second he walked in. Replaced by the quiet clatter of plates and distant kitchen noise, he slid into an empty booth, placing Ethan's photo on the table in front of him. His eyes stayed locked on it, unable to look away. The diner felt warm and safe, yet Daniel felt colder than he'd ever been. Daniel barely noticed the bell above the diner door ring, but the sound of rapid, light footsteps caught his attention. A little girl, no older than 8, walked in with a large German shepherd beside her, so big it seemed to guide her. More than she guided it, she paused when she saw Daniel's uniform, studying his tired eyes with a seriousness far beyond her age. Then, without hesitation, she gently nudged the dog forward and slowly approached his booth. As if she already knew why he was there, the girl stopped right at Daniel's table, her small hands resting confidently on the German shepherd's back. Her voice was steady, almost gentle, yet it carried across the diner like a spark in the dark. "Officer, my police dog can find your son." Conversations halted mid-sentence. Forks froze halfway to mouths. Even the humming lights seemed to quiet down. Daniel blinked, unsure he'd heard her correctly. She was just a child. How could she possibly know anything? But the dog beside her stood tall, alert. As if he understood every word, Daniel straightened slowly, trying to make sense of the little girl's confidence. He forced a tired smile, the kind adults give when they don't want to break a child's hope. "Sweetheart." "I appreciate it," he said softly, "but this is a serious situation." She didn't flinch. "Didn't look away," Daniel sighed. His heart was shattering, and the last thing he expected was help from a child and her dog. The little girl gently placed her hand on the German shepherd's neck, her eyes never leaving Daniel's. "He's not just my dog," she said quietly. "He used to work with my dad. He was trained for rescue. Real rescue." Daniel frowned, surprised. The girl nodded as if expecting his doubt. "Before my dad died, he told me Rex could smell fear, pain, and even danger before anyone else noticed. He saved people, lots of them." Rex lifted his head then, ears twitching, gaze locked on Ethan's photo lying on the table. The dog wasn't guessing. He was reacting. Rex slowly stepped closer to the table, his nails clicking softly against the diner floor. He lowered his massive head, sniffing Ethan's picture with a deep, deliberate breath. Then suddenly, he whimpered, soft but urgent, pressing his paw onto the photograph as if trying to hold it in place. His ears shot forward, his body stiffening with sharp focus. Daniel's breath caught. This wasn't random curiosity. This was trained response. The little girl whispered, "He knows something." "He really does." Rex looked up at Daniel, eyes intense, almost pleading for action. Daniel's hands shook as he reached into his pocket and pulled out Ethan's small baseball capped the one he'd been wearing that morning. He hesitated only a second before handing it to Rex. The German Shepherd sniffed it once. Then again, deeper, sharper. His entire posture changed. Muscles tightened. Tail stiffened. Eyes narrowed with unmistakable purpose. Without warning, Rex spun toward the diner door and bolted forward, barking urgently. The little girl grabbed Daniel's arm. That's it. He found the scent. Daniel didn't think he ran after them. Rex shot out of the diner like a streak of determination, nose low to the ground as he followed the invisible trail only he could sense. Daniel sprinted after him, his heart pounding harder with every step. The little girl kept up surprisingly well, gripping Rex's leash with both hands as the dog pulled her forward with powerful urgency. They ran past parked cars, across a narrow street, and toward the outskirts of town where the houses thinned and tall grass swayed in the wind. Daniel's fear mixed with a strange, new feeling hope. Rex wasn't wandering. He was leading. Rex suddenly slowed, nose twitching rapidly as he circled a patch of tall grass near an old wooden fence. Daniel's chest tightened as the dog pushed deeper into the overgrowth. A moment later, Rex let out a sharp bark and emerged holding a small scrap of fabric between his teeth. A torn piece of Ethan's hoodie. Daniel's legs nearly gave out. He recognized the color instantly. The little girl whispered, "He's on the right path. We're getting close." Daniel clutched the torn fabric, his breath trembling as reality hit him harder than ever. Ethan had been here recently. He looked at Rex, who was pacing in tight circles, nose glued to the ground, tail rigid with intensity. Something ahead was unsettling him. The little girl stepped closer, her voice steady despite her small frame. Rex only acts like this when danger is near, or when someone's scared. Daniel's pulse hammered in his ears. The trail led toward a narrow dirt path disappearing into a cluster of thick trees. Shadows swallowing the entrance. Rex growled softly, then barked once sharp, urgent, commanding them forward. Daniel swallowed his fear and followed. The deeper they followed Rex into the woods, the darker the world around them became. Trees crowded overhead, branches clawing at the fading daylight. Rex moved with laser focus, tugging the little girl forward until the path opened into a small clearing. Daniel had never noticed before. At the center stood an old, weather-beaten cabin, its windows boarded, its door chained, its presence unsettlingly silent. Rex suddenly stiffened, ears pointing straight ahead. Then Daniel heard it, faint, muffled, but unmistakably human. A child's cry. Daniel's heart stopped. He rushed toward the door, adrenaline roaring through him. "Ethan!" he shouted. "I'm here." Daniel didn't wait for help. He slammed his shoulder into the chained door again and again until the wood splintered and the lock snapped free. He stumbled inside, heart racing, eyes adjusting to the dim light. There, curled in the corner, was Ethan, shivering, terrified, clutching his scraped knees. The moment he saw his father, he burst into sobs. "Dad!" Daniel dropped to his knees, pulling his son into a trembling embrace. "I've got you. You're safe now. I'm here." Behind them, Rex barked fiercely, positioning himself between the boy and the doorway as if guarding against any unseen danger. The little girl exhaled shakily. "Rex knew," she whispered. "He always knows." Outside the cabin, Daniel lifted Ethan into his arms, holding him as if he would never let go again. Tears blurred his vision, but through them he saw the little girl standing quietly beside Rex, her small hand resting on the dog's back. Daniel walked toward her, voice breaking. "I don't have words. You saved my son?" The girl shook her head softly. "Rex did. I just listened to him." Daniel knelt, placing a trembling hand on Rex's fur. "Thank you, boy. You're a hero." Rex wagged his tail gently, sensing the love in Daniel's voice. Paramedics arrived minutes later, checking Ethan carefully as Daniel hovered protectively beside him. The little boy held tightly onto his father's sleeve, refusing to let go, while Rex sat proudly near the ambulance, alert, watchful, still guarding the child he had saved. When the officers finished securing the area, the little girl stepped forward. Ethan leaned toward her shyly and whispered, "Thank you. And thank your dog, too." She smiled, brushing her hand over Rex's head. He's happy you're okay. He doesn't like when kids are scared? Daniel watched them, a deep ache of gratitude swelling in his chest. You both gave me back my world today, he said softly. I'll never forget it. As the ambulance doors closed and the sun dipped behind the trees, Daniel looked at Rex one last time. Heroes don't always wear uniforms. Some have 4 legs, steady eyes, and the instinct to run toward fear instead of away from it. And sometimes, the smallest voices bring the greatest hope.